Hello. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I just love that animation. It makes me so happy. I'm watching it. I'm like, yes, so fun to watch. So, did you sit with yourself and do the work yesterday? I'm kind of curious what came up for you. Did you notice? Did you do it? Did you sit with yourself and look at your social media and kind of ask yourself, if I was fully free, is this really what I would be posting? One of my favorite analogies around this is like, you can only imagine if an artist is writing songs just to write hits versus an artist is writing songs because it's the depth of their soul. You know, like the difference between a song that's written because it's an extension of your soul versus the song that's written to try to hit the top of the charts. It's going to be a different song. Like, what's trendy right now? I've got to write a trendy song, you know, versus this came to me. It's, you recognize the artist so much more. And so the reason I really encourage people to go back to this for themselves is because it does make, example, Adele, it's exactly who I had in my mind, you know? She writes songs like this woman, when I listen to her music, I don't remember which masterclass I was saying this in, but honestly, her music makes me feel like I've lived some of the things that she's going through, even though I haven't. Like, she gives me almost like another life. I'm like, I feel like this has happened to me. What is happening to me? Like, she gets me in my soul, and she created a whole other vibe, I feel, in the music industry with her music. It's like there's an Adele frequency. You just know that what's hers, and she's crafted this one extraordinary thing, and it's hers. And so if you've been looking at your social media and you're like, oh gosh, I recognize, like, this wasn't me, you can totally delete stuff if it feels aligned to, or you can just be like, let me start fresh now and see how far I can go. And her lyrics sound like a diary entry. Maybe that's why I resonate with her so much. You're right. All right. Today's exciting because I want to start talking to you about how to really look at what we've talked about since the beginning and what we're going to continue to talk about during this masterclass, in what's the angle in listening to different people online talk about different strategies, and why it is so important, like so very important, to be aware of what I'm going to say next, this next part. But now I've just been told there's feedback. Is there feedback for everyone? Is everyone getting feedback, or am I clear? Okay. All right. Some people are getting feedback, some not. Okay. Let's hope it clears up, please. Thank you. There are so many iterations of you. There's going to be so many different versions of you. So have you, at this point in your business, there's a feedback noise that's outside. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do anything about that. So you're going to have to channel your energy into my me, because I can't block out the surrounding noise, and there's construction, and I'm so sorry about that. So let's just imagine that this beeping is a money truck that's backing backwards into your entryway, wherever that is, and it is just filled with money, all for you. And this beeping is the sound that's being made as the money is just cascading out of the money truck for you as we're having this discussion. Please disregard, it's just a money truck, okay? That's what we're doing. All right. So there are different iterations of you. You're going to change throughout your journey. Like, if you've already noticed that you are different now than when you started, say me. If you can see, like, the way you speak is different, the person you're speaking to is kind of different, the way you write your posts is different. Even sometimes you might look at your social media and be like, oh my gosh, I would never write that now, or I would say this so differently now, right? So you're going to change again and again and again and again. So right now, I'm speaking to you from my current iteration, and you're listening to me from your current iteration. And there's going to be things that align perfectly, and there are going to be things that don't. And it's so normal that there's going to be things that don't, because my iteration is different than yours. I'm somewhere where you're coming next. I remember the kind of things I used to talk about and how I used to see sales, social media, so many things when I was making, let's say, $10,000 a month, or $20,000 a month, or $50,000 a month, or $100,000 a month, or $1 million a month, or $2 million a month, or $3 million a month. Like, there has been a different iteration of me at every single level of that. It has been a different experience. The things I think about, the way I think about things have changed for me. And the angle that I speak about things has changed, but my comprehension of every level remains. The way that I understand what it was like at 10,000 hasn't gone away. The way I understand what things were like at 20,000 has not gone away. I remember who I was at these times. This is not long ago. In 2018, the first month of the year was a $20,000 month. I had a $20,000 month and we finished the year at $1 million. I remember the $50,000 month in the summer where I was in the pool with my mom, and she was on this little floaty thing, and I was pushing her on the little floaty thing, and she was kicking her leg up in the air going, money, money, money. And we were singing, must be funny in a rich woman's world. I was pushing her in the pool. Being so silly. Like, how are we earning this? It makes no sense. And dreaming, like, can you imagine if this continues to be this way, and I could invite all of our British family over for a Christmas and pay for everybody's flight and rent these huge log cabins and have like the winter wonderland Christmas dream. And my mom's like, don't make promises like that. It would be my dream if you could do that. And I was like, I'm going to do it. Let's do it. And then a couple of months later, having a first $150,000 month, like from $50,000 to $150,000 month, and booking the plane tickets and having my family come over and actually renting those log homes and doing everything I'd always wanted to do. Like, I remember those times. I remember what I was afraid of. I remember what I was teaching. And the wildest, most amazing things is I still have access to all the trainings and how I used to speak back then as well. And so it's not like what I have become is so different than that, but it's more complete. So I still hold the frequency of the $10,000 a month me. I still hold the frequency of the $50,000 a month me. I still hold the frequency of the $100,000 a month me. I still hold the frequency of the $1 million a month me, 2 million, 3 million. I still hold all those frequencies, even though I'm beyond that. I still hold those frequencies. And what's so important as we evolve is to remember that we don't only exist in the iteration that we are. The iteration that we are was built on all the ones that we've become up until now. And so when I'm speaking to you today, I hold the frequency you're sitting in. It's not like I'm here and I no longer understand you. It's like I'm here and I have been exactly there. I know what it feels like. I know what you think of. I know what you're scared of. I know. So in my programs, what I feel is very important, and why I love to run things live, and why I love this refinement of my programs, and why some of them are just automated. The transmission is clean, it's pure, it's the way it was, and I'm not touching it. And others continue to evolve, is because I want to be able to speak to you about what I'm learning that's making everything advance for me. There's a reason I went from 20,000 to 50,000 to 100,000 month to $1 million months. Like, there's things that changed along the way, in the way that I did things, in the way that I saw things, but I can see the journey so clearly. And so you'll hear me talk about evolution and growth over a lifetime, because for me, it's not about everything I did up until now is wrong. It's not about everything I did up until now is wrong and now I have the key. It's that I understand that the journey up until here is the key. And so I can bring in new transmissions, and I can bring in new understandings that bring everything to the next level and even further and beyond. And that's exciting. But you've got to understand, as you're listening to me, that you're everything you are because of everything you've been, and so am I. And if you can let that land, you'll understand that I hold everything that you're working towards in my understanding right now. And you have access to everything I've created in the continued evolution of who you are. This is like just two places in time along a timeline. There is no, I'm better and you're not. It's like, or you're at a certain, you're different than me. It's more like we're at different points along the journey. And so that's why I'm so excited to teach you all this stuff and to talk about what I'm seeing here, because then we can collapse time around how quickly you hit that next level iteration. So what I want to talk to you about is sales today. And sales are such an important part of business. But there's something that I found along the way that really revolutionized sales for me. And so yesterday we talked about being an expert and that feeling of like, it's so important to be an expert because people buy from you when you're an expert, and kind of debunking that and saying it's not that people only buy from you when you're an expert, but people buy from you when you're confident in what you're doing and they feel like they can trust that you're going to give them a result. And so I don't need you to be an expert in water bottles to buy a water bottle from you. I just need to trust that you're selling a good product, that you would never put your reputation on a bad one, and that your vibe and everything you are, that you talk about, the reason that you're in business, everything about you feels like a yes to me. You don't need to be an expert in water bottles for me to buy a water bottle from you. You don't need to be an expert in clothing for me to buy clothing from you. You don't need to be an expert in relationships. Like, you don't need a PhD in relationships. You don't have to have you don't have to have written 5 books in relationships, but I want to know how your relationship is going or how your relationships have gone. I want to know how your clients are doing in their relationships. I want to know what you have to say about relationships. I want to know what you know from your head to your toes. I want to see your embodiment. I want to see why. This is what I want to see. Why are you the person I want to buy from? And so instead of why do I want to buy, which is where a lot of the marketing techniques are, teach people why they should want what you're selling. For me, it's teach people why you're the one they should buy it from. And just being an expert is not a good reason, and not a good enough reason, in my opinion, because there are so many experts. So do I buy from every expert? How do I choose my one person? So there's a lot more that's involved in choosing what you buy from. There's an intuitive piece, a feeling of like, no, I just don't know. Everybody loves this and I don't get it. Or I don't know why nobody understands how great this is. Like, this is so good. Everybody should have it. Intuition. I can't explain it, but I feel it. There's also the vibe, like the essence of like, I resonate with the way this is done. I want this in my life. This looks like something I want to associate with. It feels like something that resembles a part of me. There's a connection in energetics, right? So for example, I am never the style of person that's going to drink out of a crystal water bottle versus hold the phone. What? A crystal water bottle? Why don't I have this in my life? Like, I don't need to be sold this. I just want one. Where is it? Where's the link? I want one, right? So there's a difference here in like, is this something that's me or is it not something that's me? If you're not the kind of person who wears big fancy jewelry, if you're more feathers feathers and rope and leather, and there's no point pushing you that you need diamonds if what you love is feathers and leather. And there's no point forcing leather on you if you're going to be wearing diamonds and gold. Like, you know yourself. So there's also the vibe. There's no amount of pushing that's going to get you to change who you are. Does this person speak to who you are? And then there's another part, which is the reputation. Now, this is the part that's scary for us at the beginning, and where a lot of us kind of just go to the whole, like, are you an expert? Your reputation and being an expert are so close in the mind, but they're actually quite different. Being an expert means the whole world knows, or hundreds and thousands of people have said that you're the one that they should learn from. But reputation is the ones who have worked with you are majoritively happy with what they've learned. And so I have not focused on being an expert, but I have focused on having a beautiful reputation. Like, do I care about my reputation online? I care about my reputation offline. I care about how people feel in my presence. I care about how people experience my stuff. Now, you're never going to be 100%. It's just not possible. People need things. If that's not part of what you offer, they may be dissatisfied. But majoritively is the vibe like, this person is going to deliver what they say, or is the vibe, meh, not so much. So your reputation is built one person at a time, one connection at a time. Your reputation is how people feel after they've worked with you, during they've worked with you, before they've worked with you, looking at your stuff, being around your stuff. It will never be a perfect reputation. And trying to create a perfect reputation will cause you a lot of stress. Even chocolate doesn't have a full yes reputation. People be like, I don't know how people eat that stuff. I don't like chocolate. While other people are like, if I had to live without chocolate, I don't really know the point. Like, there are split opinions about chocolate. There are going to be split opinions about me. And that is something we've got to learn to walk with. And the more we are visible, the more we see this split of like, we're not for everyone. And if the last couple of years have taught us anything, I think, is that the world really truly does see different things. Half of the world is standing in front of 6, and the other half of the world is standing in front of 9. And there is no vocabulary, no wording, no nothing that will change that. We see the world differently. And so in being able to just acknowledge that you will not be everyone's cup of tea, you will not be everyone's piece of chocolate, you will not be perfect for everyone, but the ones you're for, are they loving it? Are they loving it? And so this is where the question of like, should I have a niche when I'm selling? Should I be so specific to what I'm selling? How do I know what my dream client is? And so I want to give you a little bit of a different kind of opinion about that question. Do I need a niche? Do I need to know exactly who my ideal client is? There's a difference between your ideal client and a great client and a good client and a client that got a lot of stuff out of what you had. Those so many different levels. If you imagine throwing a dart and hitting the bullseye, the double bull in the middle, that's like your dream client. But you can play the dart, you can play darts and make points so many other places than the double bull. As a matter of fact, that's not even the highest scoring place on the board. And so what I've come to learn in my life, because the niching thing gave me the niching thing gave me so much stress and pressure, because I was like, what if I choose wrong? What if I say that this is my ideal client and then it's not the right person? Or like, what if I can't explain it? Here's what I've found. If I can't be defined in 150 character bio, then why should you to me? If I can't even explain myself in 150 character bio, how am I supposed to profile people like that? So what I have found is that there's a vibe. There's a vibe of people that are going to get everything I say in a way that's just like, oh my gosh. Right now, if I'm speaking to a person, any time in business, the people that are just like, oh my gosh, are the people who profoundly want to create massive impact and wealth in their life. The bullseye for me. They want to create massive impact. They want to create massive wealth over their lifetime. They care about being the support system for maybe their entire family, or like they want to give, they want to be like so big in the world, not just money wise, but they want to be known. There's things happening over here. The money truck has now turned into a party. So if you're wondering, there are sirens going because there's so much money in the money truck that people are celebrating the amount of money that's being dumped on your front step. That's what that sound was. So whoop for the money trucks. All right. So in your bullseye, you're going to see like, where do you prefer to speak where there's no resistance? There's always going to be some resistance because people don't think exactly the way we think. But resistance is not a problem. It just shows individuality. If you need everyone to agree with you, you're going to have a very difficult time, because the more we try to control people and they're agreeing with us, the less people we can help. If I need everyone to agree with me, I'm only an energetic match for a room that only agrees with me. That's a much smaller room. So that's why personal development and emotional intelligence goes such a long way in entrepreneurship, because you've got to be able to hold the duality of the people who think that your company is the best thing in the world and the people who don't get it. And for a lot of us, that triggers a lot of stuff. That triggers a lot of, I remember not fitting in. I remember people getting me wrong. I remember being misunderstood. And so a lot of us play down in order to not be misunderstood. You're going to be misunderstood when you're ahead of your time. You're going to be misunderstood just because the whole world is divided in a way where there's a 6 drawn on the floor and half the world sees a 9, or there's a 9 drawn on the floor and half the world sees a 6, and that's just the way it is. So if you can find the emotional intelligence and the personal growth to work on accepting that, you can become a lot bigger in your energy and being seen and all the things. So when we look at this bullseye, what I'm looking at is, where do I feel the most outspoken, where I don't need to put a caveat? You know how you'll say something like, what's something really bold that you might say where, so let's say you'll say, it's possible to achieve your goals. Let's say I'm speaking to people who want to be, I'm speaking to my ideal client. I could say something really bold like, we were born to be fully self-expressed and wealthy and passionate about our lives. Let's say I say something bold like that. I know that the people that are like, this speaks to me, are going to say yes. There's no caveat necessary. But if I realize that I'm speaking to an entire dartboard, I understand that some people will be like, but what if I don't want to be massively wealthy? What if I really want to just have a free life and the huge money really doesn't inspire me? There's a caveat. And so although you are not my effortless bullseye client, are you going to get so much from what I'm teaching? Yeah, because you're going to get to choose based on what lights you up. You're going to get to choose and say, well, I want to make this much money, and then I just stop and that's it. But when I talk about leadership, that helps you. And when I talk about, emotional intelligence, that works for you, and quantum leaps and money energetics, and oh my gosh, this is so great for you. You just have a very different vision for how it looks. But there are certain things I'm going to say that won't hit the double bull for you. And so as I've grown, what has happened is that it's a moving dartboard. So the bullseye client has changed with every iteration of me, but I'm still serving clients all around the dartboard. And so learning to sell in a way that doesn't shame people outside of the double bull gives you so much more space to speak to people. This is not about being careful, like, oh, I don't want people to not understand me, and I don't want people to get mad at me. It's not like that. It's having respect for the people that aren't just the effortless person to talk to. You can have conversations where, let's say you go live and you say, I want to have a conversation today that's specifically for this one conversation. But tomorrow I want to have a conversation that's a little broader. Tomorrow I want to have a conversation about this. Tomorrow I want to have a conversation about that. So when we niche ourselves, the issue a lot of times is that we're so committed to only speaking to this double bull client, but we forget that the double bull changes as the dartboard moves. As you change, your target's going to change. And then you're going to feel out of alignment with your business, and you've got to start all over again. Have you done this in your business? Like, all of a sudden I don't resonate with my business anymore. All of a sudden I don't resonate with my brand anymore. All of a sudden I'm realizing I'm undercharging. I need to charge more. All of a sudden I've got to restart my whole business model. I think I need to just tear everything down and start everything all over again. The reason we feel like we need to do this is we haven't built a business that's based on evolution and growth over a lifetime. So I have built Alpha Femme in a way where I knew it would constantly change as I did. And so I didn't only focus on one thing that cut everybody else out. I said, I'm going to focus on where I am while giving respect to everyone else, knowing that I'm going to move. So one of the things that I'm seeing a lot on social media is people who are kind of vilifying people that are outside of their double bull in their marketing. So you'll see people, for example, that are earning $10,000 a month that are saying hurtful things about people who are making $50,000 a month, or people who have a very organic company that are going to be shaming the bigger box companies, right? So why this doesn't work is that you don't know what's available for you in your future. What I would check really profoundly inside is there a little part of you that would like to become a millionaire, a multimillionaire? Is there a part of you that would love your business to be world renowned with so much supply and like so much demand that you may need to change your strategies at some point because the whole world eventually knows your brand, wants to know your story, and you become one of those people who's known all over the world? So if deeply inside this is actually part of the journey that you want, there's a lot of internal work around when you see someone who has what you want one day, not separating them from you because they're a future iteration. And so when we're seeing the kind of marketing, it makes sense that we would do this because it's the traditional marketing. But to be honest, the only place I've really seen this kind of marketing this intensely is in politics. Politics, instead of selling the candidate, destroy the other candidate. And I'm seeing a lot of this in the social media world. Instead of selling your program, you destroy the competition. The issue is often the competition is the bigger fish or the smaller fish, but you don't know what's going to happen in your business. What would happen? I remember when I was making $50,000 a month, I did not believe I would make more than $50,000 a month. My fear was, what if I never make $50,000 a month again? I never thought that the next month we'd have $150,000 a month. That was not in the books. It was not in the cards. It was not possible. It was not supposed to be. For me, it was like, if I can only ever make $50,000 in a month again, that would be out of this world. And I would invite my entire family over and we'd be rich forever. Never did I ever think, okay, I hit 50,000 now, we've got to do more. I was jaw dropped entirely by those numbers. Now, what I'm seeing a lot of people do is they're afraid that 50,000 may be their cap, and they're finding themselves, not long ago, making $50,000 may have been like, holy moly, or hitting a certain level in their company. Like, let's say you're one of the top 10 companies in a certain product or a certain service in your world. Just the fact that you hit that is so incredible, but the number one feels really far away from you. Or that $100,000 a month feels really far away from you. And so, instead of focusing on being where you are that you've always wanted to be, you start to compare why the number one is really not that great. Focus here, because here, see, we're top 10. And at top 10, you know that you can rely on us, but we're not that big that we don't care about you anymore. Literally seen marketing like this. And I'm like, what's going to happen when you become number one? You're going to have to then destroy everything you've created about number ones not caring about people. You're building yourself competition about yourself. You're creating it a way that, like, let's say you're like your number 10 legal service in the world. And number one is so far ahead of you that you think so far, I'll never get there. But the fact that we're number 10 is amazing. So it's like, we're the top 10. We still care about people. We still do all the things. Choose us. The number ones, they're so big box. They don't really care. Like, we still care. What happens if you somehow magically become number one? All of a sudden, people start saying that you don't care. And so we've got to protect ourselves from this image that we project onto bigger and smaller brands. Because there also is a possibility that one day you might decide that you don't want to be so forward with your company, and that you might want to lean back. And you might not want to be top 10 anymore. That might not even be important to you. You may just want a couple of few clients that you serve really well. But what if you said something like, the tiny little companies, they don't know. They don't know. You got to find someone that's world renowned like us, but that hasn't yet lost the touch like them. We're the ones. But then what happens if you take the foot off the gas and you end up wanting a boutique thing when you've made fun of that? What happens if you somehow skyrocket to number one and you've created this whole energy around how number one don't care about people? So in understanding that our double bull is a moving target in either direction, you may want to lean back in life. You may want to go forward in life. It's this consistent understanding that there's always room for every company, and there's always a buyer for every kind of company. And if you focus more on your unique message and on doing your best and on your words and on your look and on your vibe and on your connection, people are going to choose you. They're going to choose you because on their own, with their own deep intelligence, they will be able to decipher the thing you're feeling about your company right now. If you profoundly believe that your company at number 10 right now is the best because what you are feeling is that you've come so far since you were 50, top 50. And also you've heard things about number one, and you know that actually, as far as customer service goes, You're better. Saying that actually changes the energy of it. Because if you need to say it, if you need to steer away people from here and from there in order for them to land here, you don't believe your frequency is enough on its own. The mind-blowing thing I've found is that we can actually come in at any point in the game and skyrocket. At any point in the game. At any moment in time, you can come into an industry and move to the top. We have seen this with artists. We have seen this with actors. We have seen this with coaches. I came into this world and there was already very established brands that were already there before me. And I didn't come in wanting to hurt anybody, squish anybody. I came in with what I had to do. And I watch my clients come in, and some of them literally, like, they come in and next thing you know, they're having more success faster than I ever have, like 6-figure months, multiple 6-figure months, so much faster than I ever had it come. And it's like, they don't need to fight against anybody to do it. They just focus on calibrating to what they want. And this squeaky clean energy, especially, and I'm making a caveat for the coaching industry, because what's really interesting and very important in the coaching industry is that we are meant to be leaders. You know, if someone's fighting about t-shirt fabrics, I don't love it. I probably won't be interested in the person who's fighting because it's not my vibe, but it's not completely out of alignment with the t-shirt industry. But in the coaching and mentoring industry, it's like the whole goal is we're supposed to be the kind of people who can lead. So like watching people lose their power and talking about all this other stuff instead of focusing on what they're doing goes against the industry itself. And so it's just like, how do we serve our businesses while respecting other people's businesses and the industry? For me, for you, for us. For me, for you, for us. I don't feel like there's only enough for one company to be successful. As a matter of fact, I feel like the more companies are successful, the more an industry strives, the more an industry thrives, not strives, the more an industry thrives, the more the industry is on the map. Like when I look at a coaching industry that's supposed to do $20 billion in 2022, I'm like, there's no room for me to be worried about anything at this point. Let me just do my best here, because there's so much space for all of us. And if I lose my energy focusing on who's going where instead of just offering my best, I'm going to run out of stamina. And so what I found is by representing the industry that you're in a very heightened way, without needing to push, just you hold a responsibility for the industry you're in, no matter what it is, the legal industry, the beauty industry, the network marketing industry, the coaching industry, whatever it is that you are, like, you represent yourself and your brand, and you also represent the industry. Because if the industry gets a bad name, guess what? If you give it a bad name, it doesn't matter how good you sell in an industry that's you've destroyed, it's going to be less. But as we redefine and up-level every industry that we're in, and we make everything more and better, we're creating more desire. And if there's more desire, then there's no need for manipulation. The more there is a desire for things, the less selling is required. This is the mind-blowing thing. So I had a program for a very long time called Cash. And Cash was about the sequence to align selling. And what you understood in the program as you went through it is how to sell in a way that is very magnetic. And this year I have changed the name of the program because I found a much more aligned name that for me is like, why didn't I think of this before? This is what it is. So this year, instead of Cash, the sales program is called The Buyer, because this is what it is about. It is about attracting the buyer that's ready to buy already. You do that, your life changes. You already know if you're interested in coaching. It's not my job to show you to be interested in coaching. It's my job to create the company where the one who's ready to buy wants to buy. And that happens in the way that I set up my branding, advertising, communication, customer service, all the things. And there are different iterations of selling that has happened over time in my life. And I've learned so many different techniques and sales launches, but ultimately the way that I sell is in a way that's fun for the buyer. This is the most important thing for me. Does the buyer have fun? Does the buyer want to buy? Does the buyer feel, oh my God, I want it all. This is so epic. Like, yes, I'm in. Yes, sold, 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 sold. This is like my favorite sentence. Anytime people come into my world and they ask for things like, let's say I call a hotel and I'm like, which suites do you have going right now? We have this suite. Okay, perfect. Here's what it is. This is the price. Okay. What I love to say is sold. This is my favorite thing. Sold. I've asked for the information. You gave me the information. I'm sold. It's not you sold it to me. I'm the buyer. I'm the freaking buyer. You're the freaking buyer. The power lies not in the seller. The power lies in the buyer. If we want to revolutionize sales, we've got to learn to empower the people with the money. I don't know about you, but the more money I've had in my hands, the more I've recognized people do not know how to treat people properly. The biggest thing I crave more than everything is like customer experience. I'm like, where's the customer experience? I want to be blown away. I want to feel like spending this money that I've dreamt of having is the most, like, I want it to feel the way I dreamt it would feel to have this money. I want more businesses to know how to treat buyers that want to spend money. We know when we want something, so it should be an amazing experience to spend it. We know. And if we don't want it, then it should be a very respectful experience that we do not want it. Either way, it's about the buyer. And so in your business, when you're thinking about selling, there's two different ways you look at it. Either you're in control, in which case you got to say things a certain way and you've got to do things a certain way in order to be good at sales. And I've often heard things like, selling a fridge to, a person who lives in an ice house, like you don't need to sell a fridge to a person who lives in an ice house. They live in an ice house. Why are you proud that you sold someone something they don't need? Why were we taught that that was good? Why are we taught that? That's not good. I don't want that skill. I want the skill that the buyers in the world that have decided they desire something, when they find my world, they're like, sold. Sold, because I feel respected here. I feel honored here. I feel like my money is well spent here. My intuition, my money, my vibe, me, I decide that I want to pay you. I'm the boss. We've been doing it in a warped kind of way. And I think the world is really changing a lot when it comes to, it's because you're not really, I don't think that word is right anymore. So selling ice people who live in an ice house, right? So my feeling about all this, I want to create a buyer paradise. I want a business that feels so good for me, for you, for us. I don't want to push my employees to have to sell. I want to empower them to be there for you. You have a question? I got your back. You want to think about it? Take all the time you need. People are shocked, like, you don't follow up with people? Like, what if someone says, I'd love to have the link, I want to sign up. You don't follow up with them? I don't. Why? Because I don't like to be followed up with. If I haven't bought it, I'm either still thinking about it or I don't want it. If you love to be followed up with and you're like, thank goodness you followed up with me because I almost forgot and I really want this, then you know exactly what the right frequency of follow-up is. If you're like me, any follow-up is annoying. I don't like follow-up. If I have not messaged you back, I'm not in the vibe. I know my vibe. I know myself, I know my intuition, I know my vibe, I know that I'm thinking about it. If you're reaching back out to me, you've probably lost the sale for me. But if you enjoy it, then you know the vibe. And this is the thing that's so different. There's such a difference between a person that's following up with you because it's the way they do things and a person who's following up with you because they were told they should. You can feel it immediately. Immediately. So by giving the service that you pray for, by giving the service that you wish for, you are creating a brand that is so aligned with your spirit that your people are going to find you. You will not need to bash people who follow up. You're just going to decide that you don't. You don't need to bash people who don't follow up. You just decide that you do. You're so focused on having a business and a brand that is so absolutely aligned with your spirit that it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. Because the world needs all of us. It needs the people who follow up for the people who like to be followed up with. And it needs the people who don't for the people who don't like that. It needs us all. And so as we're all shaming each other and the way we're doing things as part of our marketing strategies, we're creating so much confusion and we're actually discrediting the industry. There is no thing that is wrong. There's just a thing that is not right for you. The thing that you don't like, someone else loves it and it works for them. So it's not about discrediting other people's ways. It's about not forcing ourselves to do things that we know are a full body no for us. It's a no from me. So why am I pushing myself to do something that I don't want to do if it's a no for me? And why am I stopping myself from doing something because this person said you shouldn't when I know that I love this? The whole beauty of brands that are built and businesses that are built in alignment with your spirit is that you will always find your bullseye, double bullseye clients, but not because you've discredited the whole board, not because you've burned bridges with everything outside the double bull. You understand that your way changes. You understand that at some point you may see that like, it was cool for me to catch up with people it was fun for me to ask people, so I know that I gave you a link a couple of days ago. You were going to sign, you were going to press the link a couple of days ago. I'm seeing that it hasn't been done yet. Do you have any questions? That might feel good for you when you only have a person or two in your inbox every day. It may feel like the greatest thing to do and it's so aligned. And when you have 700 people in your inbox, that might feel like the worst thing on earth. It might be like, there's no way we could do this. It could change. So what if you decide that you're going to shame everybody who does it or who doesn't do it when you've got 2 to 3 people in your inbox, and one day you get to having 700 people and you realize you want to change things, but you have publicly shamed everyone who does it a certain way? This is why our posture in the industry that we're in, how we treat other businesses, how we treat other ways, it says a lot about whether or not we will have the freedom to become whatever we want to be. Saying the way I do it right now is the right way means I can't change and I can't evolve. And for me, evolution and growth has been the greatest thing in my business. I have learned so much. I see people saying like, making fun of people who cold message and DM. But the thing is, a person who has no network, and I want you to like consider this for a second. A person has no network. They don't have many friends. They have dreams of becoming successful. They have no idea where to begin. They meet a person that talks to them about network marketing and that tells them, I can help you, but you're going to have to do really uncomfortable things to do it. But we're going to get you an audience. It's going to be hard though. Are you in? And they're like, okay. And then they're like, what we're going to do is we're going to sit together and I'm going to help you get on calls with people. And you're going to get real brave and you're going to call these people and you're going to see if they want to get on a phone call with you. And they're like, no, I can't do that. There's no way I can do that. And they're like, you've got to, because you don't have a network. And so you've got to do it. I don't want to do it. You've got to do it. I did it this way. It worked for me. It's the reason I'm here. I didn't have a network either. You've got to do it. And so they hear it. They hate it. They get on the phone and they cold call people and they don't want to be on the phone. Hey, So I have this new opportunity and I'd love to meet you for coffee. It's going to be me and my district manager, and we're going to talk to you about an opportunity. And then the person who gets this phone call decides to publicly shame this person on the internet. What good did we do there? What if instead you say to yourself, what did I learn about this? I learned that I don't like being cold called. Okay. What's another way for a person that has no network? Okay, what if I decide to go live and do a live about, here's a suggestion if you have no network and cold calling people doesn't feel aligned to you. It doesn't feel right. Here's a suggestion. And you go live and talk about Reels, or you talk about Facebook Live, or you talk about a post writing course that you've got. And you use the opportunity not to destroy the other person's way, but to make something actually helpful to the people who may, like you, not enjoy being cold called. The DMs, going in someone's DMs. How many posts do we see on the internet of people being like, if you DM me like this, you're blocked? But it's like, we don't know what that person's going through. We don't know, like, they could have lost their job. They've got 4 kids to feed, and they've been told that they can make an extra $500 a month if they just send random people messages on the internet. And so you're not an energetic match for this, and you can let that go. You can let that go entirely. Or you can think like, what would be another way? Like, how can I help that person? That I'm sure I'm not the only person that has resistance to receiving a message I don't like in my inbox. I know I'm not. So how can I bring something forward to the table and say, here's an alternative? Because there are people who don't enjoy the DM stuff. I want to share an alternative that I've thought of. Why do we have to make it about fighting against? This is the thing that I'm like, in a world where we're fighting for freedom of speech, we're like clamping everybody down if they're not saying what we want to say. And so what I would love, it's like cold messages get to be a turnoff for you. Cold calls get to be a turnoff for you. And you could bring a solution to the marketplace, or you could just be really clear that that's not your jam and that could be it. But it's the energy that we give in destroying other people's business models actually create a different energy around us and our brand. You could also take it up directly with the person and say, hey, you know, this method doesn't really work for me. I don't enjoy it. I would appreciate if you don't message me like this anymore. I do actually, I'm going to be bold enough, since you messaged me privately, to say though that I have this YouTube video, it's free, on other ways to connect with a cold audience if you want to watch it. I do wish you well. If this does work for some people, you'll find your people. And if not, this is another way, and I wish you the best. You could do that if you wanted to. Now, as I've said, and I said this at the beginning of this live, you may find this all too proper, and it might bug you, and you might be like, I'm allowed to do what I want, and I'm allowed to tell people what I want. You are allowed. But I would ask you, is it in alignment with your trademark? And if it is, so be it. If it is in alignment with your trademark to be a little destructive of another person's business model, like it's part of your edge, so be it. But if you see in your mind like, no, this is separate, this has nothing to do with my business, it does. In the way you address people, in the way you speak to people, in the way that you do the things that you do, you're developing your trademark. If you say like, my brand is to help empower people and change the world, but in the same breath, you shame someone publicly, there are a lot of people who are going to feel validated by your behavior. Don't get me wrong. You're going to get a lot of people who are like, I love you. Thank you for saying this, blah, 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 blah. They probably won't be the people that you look up to though. they will be the people who are also trying to make their businesses work. So who are you speaking to as your double bull without eradicating the entire board in alignment with your trademark? If you know that you're incredible, and this is really what matters, you know that what you're doing is incredible, and that if it needed changing, if you got feedback that it wasn't, or as you evolve, you're going to get better. Like I already know I am at a certain level of, I'm good right now, but it's nothing compared to what I'm going to become. I'm going to learn from now. There's going to be a time in my life where I look back at who I am now and I'll think, bless my cotton socks. But right now, this is my best. And I know that I can be better with time. This is my evolution. And I'm dedicated to this evolution and to this craft. And it's part of my trademark to be aware of the whole dartboard, the double bull, the evolving of my business. And I have care, compassion, because it's part of my trademark. Alpha Femme is she who leads herself when it's easy, when it's hard, all the things. And so my brand holds such a strong trademark. And yeah, it's a lot of responsibility, because big power means big responsibility, right? With great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man's uncle. I'm sure it comes from something else, but I always think of Spider-Man's uncle when I think of that sentence. So our jobs in all this, as we're building big brands, is not just to think about, is this post gonna sell? It's more like, do the people with the power desire to stay in this sphere? Do the people with the money want to be here? Do the people with the ability to purchase what I'm selling choose here? If it's about the buyer. If it's about the buyer and not about my ability to sell, if it's about their ability to make a choice instead of my ability to sell them, then my responsibility for what I present to the world is even greater. It's so much more important that I deliver world class, because it's not about how much I can manipulate someone to buy something they don't want. It's about how wonderful of an experience I can create for the people who want to buy. And so together, Impact Academy and the buyer are so cool, because the idea is to create a social media that is so on brand and that's so trademarked with who you are, that when a buyer shows up in your dartboard, they know that they're getting what they need. And when there's an opportunity to buy and they're there in their power, and you have fun ways, fun sales processes that make them excited to buy, not from need, but from desire, then what you're offering and what you're creating is for this person who was effortlessly magnetized to a dartboard or a double bull that moves through time, that's really just connected, vibing, intuitively a yes with who you are, that doesn't feel less than you, that doesn't feel pushed by you or manipulated by you. It's a person with power that feels seen, honored, and respected in your world. And now all of a sudden you've got this opportunity that you want to talk about in a way that honors the buyer's intelligence, the buyer's money, the buyer's experience, the buyer's everything. And the buyer chooses you because you care. You're in a totally different league. Totally different league. So there are incredible sales strategies, but the best part about the sales strategies, in my experience, is to make the sales strategy more about the buyer than my ego. There's certain sales strategies that are like, I'm high-fiving myself because I'm so good at sales. And there's another sales strategy that's like, I am an energetic match for the most epic people. This is unreal. And I am so happy. I'm happy. They're happy. We're happy. For me, for you, for us. Everybody feels good. Not like I'm rich, they got screwed, haha. Which is what a lot of sales feels like sometimes. Like, did you get the sale? I don't know about you, but I would not want to be the one that they got. Whatever getting means. Did you get another one? I got another one. Who's on the other side of that vibrational string? And so what I want you to consider today is, if your sales process had you on the other side of the vibrational string, if you were the buyer to your own sales process, would you feel respected? Would you feel honored? Would you feel happy? Really, knowing your real soul, deep, real, true, full, like honest, real intentions, knowing yourself. This is like the greatest, this is the greatest introspection work ever, because, and you don't need to tell anybody, just like be super freaking honest with yourself. The way you feel about people who don't buy and thoughts you have about them, the thoughts you have when people do buy and the thoughts you have about them. Like if they could see that, feel that, if you were on the other side of your own vibrational string, what would your experience of buying be? And really sit with that. And then ask yourself, what is my dream experience of buying? And what might be on the other side of that vibrational string? Just for fun, start to see how different this is. And we've been getting quite a few questions about the programs, and I know that you're excited, but there's no stress because Impact Academy starts like on the 28th. So there's going to be time after this event. There's no stress. There's no stress about any of these programs. They're all coming. There's no like last minute anything. So I know there's excitement, but there's no panic. It's all going to come. From now, just get in the vibes and see if this lands. Everything is going to show up in good timing. Enjoy this process. For me, for you, for us, for the seller, for the buyer, for the industry. Let's raise the bar. Whatever industry you're in, there's so much more we can do. And it makes the whole world a better place. So enjoy, have fun with this, and I will see you tomorrow for another extraordinary session. See you soon.